Welcome to Bleach Revisited. This is Karkur Gold, your host of this series in which we will be reading every single chapter of the Bleach manga, providing critical analysis, personal response, and discussion of how those chapters connect to the rest of the series as a whole. As usual, we begin these videos with a reading of the current chapter that we are on. This is Bleach, Chapter 61, Lesson 2, Shattered Shaft. I'm hot. Why are we wearing winter clothes? Orihime and the others didn't come. I wonder what they're doing. Can I go home? Excellent. Now, I could train here without anyone bothering me. Hey, there he is! Hey, are you? Miss Inoue? And Chad? A lesson? Yeah, we need a lesson so we can go to the Soul Society. Want to join us? Well, I noticed you guys' spirit energy has increased recently, but I had no idea you were thinking of this. So, who's your teacher? Whose tutelage are you under? Well, it's not really a who. Actually, our teacher's right beside you. What? Has he cloaked his presence? What power? It is I. What? What the? What's this? It's, a kitty. I can see that. Why is it talking? Pointing, how rude. I'm sorry. How embarrassing. Forgive my outburst. Indeed. Just because a cat spoke. What a disgrace. Stop talking! Try to be more adaptable. Take lessons from the girl. Now, let's get to the reason we're here, shall we? Yeah, Uryu, what's the big deal about a talking cat? Well, it is a little unusual. You're planning to rescue Miss Kachiki too, right? So let's hear Mr. Yurichi's lessons together. Thanks, but I respectfully decline. How come? Mr. Yurichi's amazing. He tracked you here by your spiritual presence. I'm sure he's very skilled, but I'm sorry. It's not that I don't trust Mr. Yurichi's powers, I just want to be alone. Anyway, I never had any intention of rescuing Miss Kuchiki. I'm just training because I'm angry with myself for losing to a Soul Reaper. That's all. Miss Kuchiki means nothing to me. Mr. Yurichi. There you have it. He's not going to the Soul Society. Then we have no further business here. But, let's go, Orihime. Uryu, if you change your mind, let me know. We'll be waiting. I'm sorry, Orihime. But this training can't be witnessed by anyone. I'm ready, teacher. Ah! I'm gonna die! Do you have to make so much noise? What do you expect? You guys just cut the chain of fate. I need that. I know that. You do? You did it on purpose? Yes. And now that your chain of fate has been severed, Mr. Kurosaki, you can't return to your body. You're going to die. The encroachment of the chain will begin soon. When it reaches your chest, a big hole will be eaten there, and you'll become a hollow. The end. What? Are you serious? I'll become a hollow if this disappears? Oh, you didn't know. How awkward. But don't worry, there is a way to survive after your chain of fate has been cut. But only one way. You must become a Soul Reaper. That's right. Lesson 2 is about regaining your Soul Reaper powers. When it's over, you will be a fully functional Soul Reaper again. Well, shall we begin the lesson? Shattered Shaft! Go! Ah! Surprise? That's my highest level fake out. It's pretty deep, huh? I really worked hard. Ah, crap, that jerk. What's wrong with my arms? Binding spell, number 99. Can restrict. I'm sorry, but until this lesson is over, I have to bind your arms. Alright, now come back up here like that. That's lesson 2, the shattered shaft. Are you crazy? There's no way I could do that. What? Are you sure you want to be wasting time arguing? Look, the encroachment has already begun. To be continued in Volume 8. It's the Bleach Extra Radio Cone and Radio Cone 2. Bleach Extra Radio Cone. Hey, how you guys doing? The stud of the Bleach world, everybody's idol, Cone is here. Splash! Radio Cone Trolled, is a cutting-edge program in which I answer the questions that you guys have sent in to Bleach. Thank you very much. Question 1. Is Rukia really a man? A question that came up occasionally when the manga first began. Hey, Rukia is all woman. Next. Question 2. Whatever happened to Chad's parakeet? It just disappeared. Who's Chad? Today's topic, Keanu Reeves and Kevin Costner's similar auras. I don't know. Next. Author's answer. He flew away. That's why Chad is so glum. Don't you feel sorry for him? By the way, to the day that he flew the coop, he never learned Chad's name. Question 3. Are Yuzu and Karen twins? Yuzu? The throbbing of his old ear injury. I don't know. What difference does it make? The sound of her new trauma. Next. Author's answer. They could be twins. Question 4. What's Orihime's bra size? Yahoo! Here it is. Here it is. Now this is the kind of question I've been waiting for. Time for some hands-on research. See ya, assistant. Don't wake up. The sounds of a stuffed animal being savaged. Question 5. Is Cone really stuffed with cotton? Please check. Ah! As you may have noticed, Cone suffers new trauma with each question. The end. Bleach Extra Radio Cone. Bleach Extra Radio Cone 2. Repair needed. Hey, how you guys doing? The Pure Luigi Colina of the Bleach world, everybody's idol, Cone is here. Simulation. We're leaving the studio today and taping Radio Cone outside. I'm going to go fast and furious now that I've got a little freedom, so don't get shaken off. Thank you very much. In response to request, we're going to do an embedded live infiltration broadcast from my local assistant's workplace, that otherworldly candy store, your horror Shoten. There's been some bad blood between me and these guys, but time heals. I've matured a little since then, and learned how to lie bitter. Anyway, this is business, so I'll just RadioCon 2 Infiltration, your horror Shoten, curtain raised. Part 1, Tessai's room. First is the Your Horror Shoten's own braid-sporting, muscle-bound, mustachioed apron wearer, ranked number 1 in the don't know what nickname to give him category. Let's start with Tessai's room. Hey, you caught me in my caught me with my compromising position. Actually, I was given a strange task, which I'm reluctantly reporting, wearing only an apron. Ah! Part 2, Jinsa and Ururu's room. Next up are Your Horror Shoten's very own cat and mouse duo, Jinsa and Ururu's room. This is so funny, huh, Ururu? Leave me alone. Second time today. Part 3, Kisuke's room. Finally, the last one. Your Horror Shoten's number 1 mystery man and all-around freak. He manages the store on the side. Let's infiltrate Kisuke Urahara's room. That Urahara set a cunning trap. Does he think I'd fall for this kind of bait? Lingerie catalogs? Ah! Free of charge this time. 3 times more trauma, 3 times more laughs. Bleach Extra, Radio Cone 2. The end. Radio Cone, baby. Opening theme. We are Radio Cone, baby. Hey, how you guys doing? It's finally here. Heart-to-heart Q&A program between you guys and me. Radio Con, baby. We've been digging deep, keeping it unreal. So, check it out. This is our very first guest is my best girl, Rukia Kachiki. Despite her recent incarceration, she still agreed to do the show. We've got a prison feed direct from Soul Society's Slammer. Rukia! Is this for real? Of course! You look radiant as always, my dear. What's the secret to your beauty? Prison food. This shower's for readers' questions, right? Or this show's for readers' questions, right? Let's get on with it. Of course! Well, now that the monitors are showing Rukia and the negative ions of the studio have drastically increased, let me read the most asked question out of the tons of letters we received. Where does Rukia get her uniforms and civilian clothing? And while she's at Kurosaki's house, what does she do about bathing? Naomi Kishino, Ishikawa, Japan. You really want to know? Well, fine. First of all, the uniforms were all provided by Urahara. As for my civilian clothing, I first was borrowing Ichigo's little sister Yuzu's, but one time she caught Ichigo going through a dresser, and it was awkward. Since then, I've been borrowing or buying from Urahara on credit. As for Bass, at first I'd sneak in one late at night while Ichigo was kept a lookout, but it was too risky, so after about 2 weeks I started going to Urahara's to bathe. That seems even riskier to me, but Mr. Kubo, if you weren't a manga artist, what do you think you would be? Ayaka Yokoyama, Chiba, Japan. Who cares? Hey, this is a question for Tight. We can't answer it. If you have a question for him, he'll sure to be invited as a guest eventually. Save it till then. No way. I don't like that guy. If he shows up, I'm out of here. He could do the show by himself. You better watch it. Your appearances might decrease if you keep saying stuff like that. Is Kon more of a Kyoko Fukada or Haruka Igawa fan? Gunma. Every day is special. Haruka Igawa, because her servings are bigger. Who? Who are these people? I have a problem. I like somebody, but we're in different classes, so I just end up teasing her whenever I see her. What can I do so I won't tease her? Mr. Cohn, please help me. Hyogo, baseball player. Here it is. I thought nobody would send a serious love question to a manga, but we've got one. Actually, there are a lot of others, but all of them were so serious and heavy that I didn't think Ruki or I could handle them. If only I had a guest who was good at this kind of thing. Well, Rukia, what do you think about this? Well, there were guys that like that when I was in school. Boys who'd pinch me or say mean things to me every time I passed them in the hall. What? The nerve of those guys to tease my Rukia! Looking back now, I realize they just wanted attention. But at the time, I thought they were jerks. Of course, it depends on what kind of relationship you have with them and the kind of teasing it is. But generally, the chance of a girl liking a boy who teases her is less than 1 in a million. Even if you're embarrassed, the first step is to smile confidently and say hello. When someone who usually teases you approaches in a normal way, the effect can be dramatic. But it's hard for him to act normal around her. Unfortunately, he's got to decide whether he'd rather suffer a little embarrassment or be hated. Rukia, I brought you some food. Camera? Where you sneak that thing in here? Wait, no, it's not what you think, Renji. Not what I think. I'll break that thing right now. Renji, no, stop. Rukia? Rukia? Accepting letters. Any questions okay? We're accepting letters now. Tell us which character you want the letters to be read by. Our next guest will be Tatsuki Arasawa. Include your question, name, address, age, and telephone number, and send it all to the address below. Single, Goodnight Radio Cone Baby. Ending theme, music, SMAP, Lionheart. Fade out. That is it for this volume of Bleach, as well as this chapter of Bleach. I know we had a lot at the end there, so appreciate you bearing through all the little radio cone segments. Also, as the cast gets larger, I keep having the issue where I'm like, man, is that the voice that I did? Or like the kind of enunciation that I even use for that character? You know, it's hard to remember that on the fly. But it is what it is. What it is. I do kind of like this opening gag where they're all in winter clothes, even though it is technically right now it's summer in the actual manga. Whereas I think whenever this was being written, I assume that it was at winter, which is why Kuwa put them in winter clothes. Otherwise, it's just because he's having fun with fashion. But I do like the gag that they're immediately kind of getting out of these ridiculous clothes that they were wearing just for the opening bit there. Um, One cool thing, so we open up on Uryu here out in the middle of nowhere, and he's found kind of this secluded place that he can train without having anybody bother him, right? So that was one of the things that I brought up in a previous chapter that I was interested in. Is like, well, where's Uryu at? What's he up to? You know, so on and so forth. But we haven't really found that out yet. Now we know he is training. So of course I like that yet again. Great gag here. Where he's like, I can train without anybody bothering me, and immediately we get them bothering him. Um, I do like that there's, attention given to the different sizes of these characters. I really like, Chad being kind of massive here, Yurichi being pretty small, and Orihime being kind of in the middle. Um, of course, I like that we also use the page skip and the extra panel to really kind of imply that moment of her explaining everything so that we can follow into now that we can assume that your Orihime is explaining the entire situation and that they're going to go save Rukia, right? Um, of course, like we get this kind of thing where we know that I keep trying to say Ichigo. We know that Ishida has like this tutelage that he's had under his master, right? And we learn that of course the box that he has here is something that the master's left him. So it's interesting that that's his first assumption too, right? That somebody's teaching them, right? That they're getting this lesson from a specific kind of tutor, which is cool. I like that that fits within kind of his expectations for how somebody would usually be taught. That it's not like through a larger organization or something that they derived on their own, but there's like an individual kind of teaching them. And of course, the surprise is that it is in fact this cat Yorichi. So that's pretty good. um, it also shows like I think one of the other things that is kind of being showed off here, other than this kind of fun little character interactions, is that there's like an inflexibility on Uryu's part, like a rigidity to the sort of things that he understands and knows. And Yurishi calls him out on that, right? To be more adaptable. Certainly, that's the case with what's Orihime, right? And even Chad, who thinks is a little bit weird but goes along with it. So it's kind of neat that we have these characters that Chad, who is able to kind of roll with anything, and especially Orihime, and then finally we know Orihime is kind of more fanciful anyway, in her imagination and all of that, so it makes sense. But yeah, I like that she's also assumed that Ishida is going to plan to rescue Kuchiki, which is really sweet. I think the idea, even though he does say that he had never had a plan to, I believe that he was going to go along with it all along anyway, especially from what we saw regarding his intervention with the other Soul Reapers earlier. So, really, he's just saying that he isn't here to save Face so that he can train on his own, as far as I understand. And I think that's why we also get this sort of expression from him as he, turns away and has a little bit of maybe sadness or hesitation there. I think that she just picks Yurichi up like a cat because Yurichi's a cat. It's pretty good. I mean, like I think you wouldn't pick up a talking cat that way, but here we are. Um, yeah, it's we get this zoom in, of course, whenever he says he wants to be alone to the box that he's got here. So we know that's significant, and of course we find that it's significant in this chapter. So that's all fine, all makes sense. I like that it's been there this entire time and seen. Um, Obviously he's taken his loss pretty seriously. I mean, he wasn't even at school the next day, so at least he considers it more seriously than his, academics, or at least showing up then. Because I don't think he was injured too bad because he was able to go back home, right? So that makes sense. I think Yorichi is also pretty cut and dry about this. Like, hey, look, that's it. We don't have any more business here. Let's not linger. It also tells us a little bit about Yorichi, who seems to be pretty decisive about things. So, cool that we're learning a little bit more about these new characters and informing more about the others. I like that Orihime still, she's still pretty sure that Uryu's going to help, and she even, offers off this, if you change your mind. And as usual, we get the characters facing away whenever they're really trying to hide their true emotions, or whenever they're having, a real conflict or a serious moment. Um, Now, he does say, "I'm ready, teacher," as he opens this box. Obviously, we're left to assume what might be in it, but clearly he's training some Quincy thing, and his teacher, if you remember, being his master that left him everything that he had, taught him everything he knew. Assumably, that's the same teacher there, that he's referring to the same sort of sensei, but could be a different teacher. But I think we're meant to kind of assume that it's something that's been left behind for him to train with, a way for him to become more powerful. Of course, we get back to Ichigo, and as a reminder, yes, he is going to die. I do love that, they go back and forth about that, of course, and the explanation is right whenever it gets worn all the way down, that he will become a hollow. Right. So I'm trying to think about exactly what I was going to say regarding that. Look, the issue is that we've seen. I guess we haven't seen others that have had their chains severed, because I was thinking about that in regards to the various spirits that we've seen, right? Because their chains are essentially severed, and I guess eventually they hollow if they linger long enough rather than passing on. Um, but we haven't really seen any spirits that have had their chains severed directly with the axe. What I think is strange is, of course, that the chain starts whenever it starts to kind of go through the process of eating itself, right, and breaking down. I'd always remember whenever I originally read that, thinking that that was just an effect of the shattered shaft itself, and not something that always happens. But maybe that does happen to anybody that specifically has their chain severed. But yeah, I don't know. I'm considering that. What are your takes on it? I suppose is my question. I'm curious because it is here, right, explain well, yeah, the encroachment will begin, reach your chest, big hole will go there, and we know that's kind of what happened with the Demi Hollow, right? But yeah, it's questionable. I think it's the first time that we've seen this imagery, and so I wonder if it's a unique kind of case for exactly what's happening here versus somebody naturally being killed, you know, or if this is just the case for everybody and it's maybe hastened because of the nature of this training and them cutting the chain directly. I don't know. Um, anyway, of course, there's this threat that well, he'll become a hollow, and if he's able to instead become a soul reaper, then he won't have to worry about that. Which is kind of interesting, right? Because they haven't really laid out a foundation for how to become a Soul Reaper. It's just okay, well, you are dead, and now you're going to either become a Soul Reaper or your chain will completely become encroached upon, and the soul will open up, and your heart will form your mask. You'll become a hollow. Um, good luck, right? Anyway, um, yeah, it's neat that of course he explains you'll be a fully functional Soul Reaper again, but instead doesn't hold up the threat. The threat came first rather than it being sort of well, if you don't, then this is what happens. I do like the joke of, him pointing out to the other direction of Shattered Shaft and then it opening up behind him or underneath him in Tessai, but behind Urahara. Um, Assumably Ururu dug it, right? It's pretty good. Speculating on exactly how they got this entire place made overnight, more or less, and I guess Uru had a big hand in it. But we've seen that she's pretty powerful. Um, Kind of neat here. So we get this crazy binding on Ichigo's arms. He's unable to break it, and it's binding spell number 99. And you got to assume at this point that like the higher level spells are more powerful. So this is a pretty powerful binding spell, which is kind of exciting. It's cool to see and confirm that, of course, Tessai here has access to very powerful Kido, which, as we know, that is the binding magic that Soul Reapers use. So, even though we haven't seen Tessai, in a Shihaka show are operating as a Soul Reaper, he still has access to this magic. And we know Kisuke had access to these binding spells as well. So, it's something to consider. It certainly points towards them both being Soul Reapers, or at the very least having learned this magic. But their other connections to society also kind of keep us guessing. Anyway, clearly we have Kisuke, who knows quite a lot about souls and the nature of souls and how somebody might even become a Soul Reaper, even a spirit that isn't inducted normally. And you have to wonder kind of like how somebody becomes a Soul Reaper otherwise anyway, right? It's because assumably if you live in Soul Society, you're just a regular soul, and then undergoing a certain amount of training is what allows you to become a Soul Reaper. So maybe this is a part of that training somehow, being able to kind of get up the shaft in a way, sort of like, you think about the training that Ichigo underwent earlier, right? Lesson 1, where he just had to hit her, where it was kind of a diversion, right? The whole land a hit, knock her out before you become knocked out, that sort of thing, wasn't really the lesson. The lesson was being able to endure her first hit, and therefore, gaining back enough spiritual pressure to, or Ryatsu or whatever, spiritual power, in order to be able to actually function within a Kanpaku, like spiritual state. So, I wonder if this is the same sort of thing, right? Where getting out of the shattered shaft is like more of a diversion from the actual lesson here, the actual thing that he's achieving. But it gives him a more, clear goal to kind of work towards. And of course, we have that on a time limit too. He doesn't have forever to figure this out, as his chains will start devouring themselves. Of course, this reminds me a ton. If you want to draw a connection to other manga, there's this sort of training thing, being thrown on a hole. You got to get out, sort of thing. You're under some sort of danger. It comes up in other manga, but I specifically am thinking of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure has a part in part 2. One of the main characters gets kind of thrown into a pit that sort of endangers their life, and they have to climb out of it. And in doing so, they'll obtain the power that they need, that sort of thing. So this is similar to that in a way, but I think there's enough differentiating this from that other scene to where I wouldn't really call it a ripoff. I mean, I think thematically, just being put into danger and then being like, well, you have a time limit to kind of overcome this danger is pretty significant. I do like this crazy visual of like the chain itself sort of devouring itself, growing all these grotesque mouths and like warping upon itself and eating itself. Kind of insane, but clearly gives Ichigo a little time to escape here. And of course, the extra thing that we get is the mouth of those chains. I don't really have much to say about the radio cone. I mean, it's all pretty direct questions. I'm interested that there are people that mistook Rukia as a man rather than a woman. But, otherwise we just get these gags about Khan not really knowing anybody despite running this radio show. I also think it's kind of funny that Ururu has assumably all these huge pictures of these characters stuffed up her shirt, I guess. I don't even know what's going on here. Again, it's all just silly gags. There is some kind of information here that I think we already knew, but is worthwhile nevertheless. I know I totally botched reading this in Desai's voice, but whatever. Get in one take, baby. Yeah, this bit with Rukia, right, where it's asked about where she was getting her clothes and all of that, and that she explains that it was Kisuke provided the uniforms, and then the other civilian, the clothing that she got was borrowed, and then otherwise she got it from Kisuke. So Kisuke clearly had this idea for her to join Ichigo at the school from the get-go, which is pretty cool. So it's we don't really see Kisuke for a little while in the manga, but this really confirms that he was kind of helping out Rukia from the get-go, and that maybe he had a hand in everything with Ichigo from the beginning, really. But we've been able to speculate on that anyway, right? Whew. Yeah. Ichigo, I was about to say, what is it? Cultivation, right? Seems to be Kisuke's focus, putting him through all this. And, you have to wonder then how much Kisuke was aware of, like, the fact that Orihime transferred their powers, because obviously Kisuke and Yoriichi can sense somebody from their powers and are that powerful, so they'd be able to tell that Rukia gave up her powers and Ichigo gained these Soul Reaper powers. So, were they involved even from that early on, or was it Rukia that then had to go and reach out to them because she needed all this help? Who knows, right? But definitely she got her Soul Pager, well, batteries for it, as well as a couple of other things from Kisuke's place, as well as, of course, the school uniform and everything else, too. So, very clearly, she got involved with Kisuke pretty early on. You have to wonder who reached out to who, so on and so forth. I gotta assume that Rukia reached out to him since he was in the area, but you never know. Anyway, that's it for this chapter. I think it's, as usual, pretty solid. I think the stuff with the Shattered Shaft is really neat. Obviously, we'll be getting more on that in the next volume, in Volume 8. But, again, Ichigo already kind of being killed is pretty dire, but even more so the idea that he'll become a hollow, right? And that's going to happen pretty soon. That's like a very clear and serious threat. Is a neat place to put our main character in, and sort of dangerous situation for him to be thrust into, and one that we know the stakes of, and that we can understand and kind of relate to. I think that's cool. Of course, as to how he becomes a Soul Reaper from simply getting out of here, that's left to be discovered, right? So we will find all of that out. Otherwise, we get a little bit about the other characters that we have, right? Orihime and Chad. We already knew that they were going to be training under Yoriichi, but I like that they went to go and gather up Uryu as well, and he declined it because he had his own secretive training that he wants to do. And again, he does say that he doesn't want to be a part of that, their stuff, because he doesn't actually want to go rescue Rukia, but whether or not that's true, that's unclear. Anyway, I like all that. I think all that stuff's neat. I wish maybe there was a little bit more going on, like to move things super forward, because really the only confirmation of things that we got is exactly Shattered Shaft, which is leading us into the next kind of big training thing for Ichigo, which I do think that that's effective and builds on the danger that we already had set up previous chapter. But everything with Uryu, I wish there was maybe a little bit more there. Because we already knew that Uryu was gone. I guess it's confirmation on where Uryu's been and what he's been up to. But we spent quite a few pages on that. Whenever maybe the chapter could be more balanced towards all the Shattered Shaft stuff and just have a little bit less there. I don't know. It all works. I think it's fine, and it's clearly a lot of like levity and kind of jokes and stuff like that as the more serious things are coming to develop, to kind of bring us from how kind of intense things maybe were in the previous chapter. So I'm fine with it. I just wish there was maybe a little bit more going on there, because instead we're just given these sort of promises, right? Like, we want to know, obviously, and promises are fine. Building those seeds are fine. Like, we want to know what his training is. We want to know, and we've wanted to know what the lesson is that both Chad and Orihime are going to get. And even more than that, we want to know how Ichigo is going to get out of this situation and get his powers back. So it's really, this chapter is really focusing on building up those sorts of tensions and desires for us as a reader. I think it does that well enough. As far as if that's going to be effective, we have to wait and see how those get delivered upon, but that will come eventually, right? Yeah, but that's basically all I have to say. Nothing really amazing in the art, like nothing that like I think like it's all proficient, but there aren't any like huge moments that really stand out that I can really think of. I mean, like there was a few kind of funny bits. I liked Orihime picking up Yurichi. But and like obviously the Shattered Shaft appearing behind Kisuke, like the big fake out that he does, and then Ichigo falling down the shaft forever, like through 3 panels. All that's good stuff, but I think this is mostly a good chapter for like the comedic bits. Whereas I don't think we get that many like really cool moments showing these characters. I think the last visual that we stop on is pretty strong. That one with Ichigo and the chains kind of eating their way up towards him. That's really cool, but that's about it as far as kind of striking visuals here. So maybe I wish there was maybe a little bit more there too. Who knows? But given what we have, there's I think everything works. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. Give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think about this kind of transitory stuff, because obviously the idea is that we're heading towards civil society. That's what we're building towards. So is this kind of faffing around too much? Do you think it's all worthwhile? What would you maybe see done differently, or what are you hoping to see going forward? I'm curious about that. For me, like I already know everything that's going to happen, but I don't know. For somebody else that either hasn't read the manga or hasn't been exposed to the series whatsoever, I am very curious. Anyway, let's get into the spoilers. Let's talk about how this connects to the rest of Bleach, because obviously there are some connections. Um, I do like, of course, we get these characters. I said like maybe the last time that we would see a lot of them would be in that previous, like Rock and Future 7 or something like that. But here we are with the 3 of the minor female characters, Rio, Michiru, and Mizuru, something like that. Jeez, their names aren't even coming. Because Chizuru is the over the top lesbian. I think Michiru is the like other girl with the bobbed hair, and I don't remember the other girl's name because she's been named once. I remember Rio Kaneda as the lady with the glasses, but yeah, geez. Anyway, um, bit ridiculous, but hey, I'm fine with them being in a chapter cover. They're not going to be on one for a while. Uh, it's kind of neat. So here we have Uryu's going to train in like kind of the secluded area. This is before he's really learned about like the big training facility that his father has and everything. So it makes sense that he has to find somebody else, somewhere else to train, right? That's secretive. I think that's kind of interesting, especially juxtaposed to like the places that he would train later. It's neat to think about that Uryu has to kind of undergo a training arc after almost every arc, right? Um, yeah, I guess the exception being like Fullbringer, but even then, technically you can read Spirits Are Forever with You as Uryu running around and doing stuff in that time too. So I don't know. Anyway, um, of course, it's neat that Yurichi is the one that sensed him and kind of chased him down and tried to get this Quincy on their side. I think that's great. Knowing exactly who Yurichi is and all of that. Makes sense that, of course, Yurichi would be the one to quickly search him down, being that she was the head of the Shihoan and the ninja and all of that. Um, of course, let's see. I'm trying to see if there's really any other big connections that I have here. Yeah, like Chad saying it's a little unusual. Yeah, I don't really see much elsewhere. Of course, I do like the idea that the one that gives Yurichi the most credit is of course Orihime. So she, as usual, being very perceptive, is able to perceive that there's more going on with Yurichi, perhaps, or that Yoshi truly is amazing, right? Um, or at the very least, she's the one that vocalized that. Anyway, um, as we come to find out, this is the glove that he uses, right? So lets him essentially do his. Oof, I'm trying to remember what he is. It let still that early on. I'm trying because it's not like technically a Volstand dig, even though kind of it is. Oh boy, what is his glove called? Because I know it's got some specific name. Not that naming it here even matters. But I think it's the glove that he ends up using. Is it the Sonray glove? Something like that. But the idea being that it eventually lets him do the big transformation, right? Um, yeah. Anyway, we will come to learn more about that in the following chapters, but I'm pretty sure that it's like it is what lets him use like those that I'm pretty sure it's the let still that is the like basically Mugetsu but for Quincy. Use up all your powers for a huge boost, right? One time use kind of thing. Which is wild that he ends up blowing that on Mayuri, but it makes sense whenever we get there. Anyway, we come to find out all of that later, obviously. As far as all of this with Ichigo, right, where they cut his chain of fate and they're going to throw him down the shattered shaft. Obviously, the kind of big thing here is, they know that he's going to become hollow from this. And I think that's intentional, right? That Kisuke wants Ichigo to become hollow, or at the very least develop some sort of hollow power. Because one, as we know, that's going to be kind of critical in him being able to maybe manage. Like, it's weird because whenever you think about like the way that Soul Reapers work, right? And having an Asoichi and then developing a Zanpakuto out of that. Like it's like, could Ichigo really have done that with White here, right? Like, is that the case? Um, are so in that case, is it that's why he's like starting to hollow him because he's going to have that R. I mean, the way that I tend to read this scene is that I interpret it as Ichigo being put into the shattered shaft because he like or because Kisuke knows that it's going to give him some sort of holification that he should be able to manage, and if he can manage it, that means that he'll be able to reach even higher heights than just as a Soul Reaper alone. But then, talking about exactly what makes up a Soul Reaper, it's like, well, Ichigo doesn't truly become a Soul Reaper here, right? And the Squad Zero training really kind of proves that everything that he goes through there really teaches him that like that's he hasn't really been a Soul Reaper even though he's had Soul Reaper powers. And so then I have to wonder exactly what constitutes Soul Reaper powers within the Bleach universe, right? So it's kind of a lot. Assumably, like you know, I've got to figure that it's got to have some sort of way of using your Reiatsu, but it becomes unique in a way because being a Shinigami is significant on its own. Um, the other kind of big thing that's happening here is obviously he's using the Bakudo or the Binding Spell number 99, which is pretty insane in significance. Um, if I remember correctly, and it might just be for the Keto that like our band is like all the upper level ones. Maybe it's only 100 levels. Um, but yeah, like, and geez, I'm trying to think of exactly how all of this kind of hashes out. Um, yeah, just like trying to remember keto mechanics. Obviously, so yeah, number 99 is of course this seal. I wonder if it, because I don't remember that it ever gets reused. But I'm also trying to remember exactly how like the other kind of spells get banned or whatever, like exactly which ones, and if this technically counts as, because I think it's not 100 level keto, right? Ugh, it's not coming to me. I could probably sit here and think about it all day. Um, anyway, important thing is obviously this, for those of you that are in the know, and even if you're not, this really tips Tessai's hand, right? This really kind of is a moment where we know that he is way stronger and more capable than expected, and that he's using this level 99 binding spell, this Bakudo. Um, so like that, I think is kind of the takeaway here that most people are supposed to be taking on. Um, the idea of him using like you know a very 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 powerful sort of spell, but I'm trying to think about whether or not, because it's yeah I don't think it's going to come to me, the idea of if it's a banned, um, if it's one of the banned ones, because I think those are the ones that are like hundreds up and so, but I could be wrong. I know Tessai uses a bunch of them, so that's fine. Um, yeah, and you'll have to kind of let me know exactly, because I think the thing that I'm mostly tripping on is that I know that it comes up with Aizen later, right? The idea of like 90s level and higher keto being very very significant. That's kind of one of the big stumbling blocks that I've been having, why I'm like sitting here trying to kind of mull over it. Sorry for the hesitation there, because I'm like really working my way through it mentally. I'm pretty sure, and this is part of why I'm rereading this, is to refresh myself on it, that there are certain banned keto. I don't remember what all those are off the top of my head, or if they're within a certain number bracket, or if they're just here and there. Um, because they're particularly powerful or whatever, you shouldn't use them with the Soul Society. Who knows? But then also there's a significant thing with keto that are at a certain level or higher. What's kind of wild here is that he just does binding spell right away. So he doesn't even do the chant with it, or if he did, we didn't really even get that. Anyway, the other big thing is that Kisuke really challenges him to get up and out of the shaft, and like that's what'll help him become a Soul Reaper. And I've got to wonder, obviously if he learns, Shunpo or something like that, that would allow him to escape. But like, does that really make you a Soul Reaper? Instead, obviously, whenever you holofy, you remanifest into another area, and so I wonder if that is sort of one way out, right? Is that method of remanifestation? But yeah, I'm really curious here exactly what Urahara's plan is, and if there was a logistical real way for Ichigo to become just a Soul Reaper without any sort of hollow aspect to him through this process. So I don't know. Give me your thoughts on that. Obviously, I'm kind of back and forth on it. I don't know exactly the case, and part of it's going to be just rereading the next couple of chapters to see exactly how it plays out. Um, but yeah, that's that. That's this chapter. That's this volume. Sorry to have so much of a back and forth on it there, but I'm really in my head about exactly how the keto work. I guess I'm gonna have to look a lot of that up and sort of research it. But if you know, let me know in the comments, right? As always, if you have a comment that's spoilers, tag it as such. Make sure that's clear. Usually, what I like to do is kind of have a couple lines or just like a period, so that someone always has to click see more to see the rest of the comment, so they know it's spoilers and they're opting in. But that's it for this one, folks. Thanks so much for watching this. Thanks for following along. I know the recent upload schedule has been kind of wonky. I've been having issues, so I'm hoping to get those makeup episodes put out on the regular as we go forward, either as one big dump or just like a couple of days of 2 episodes at a time. We'll see how it parses out. But as always, thanks for tuning in. This has been Karakura Gold, reminding you that spirits are forever with you. Stay gold.